Imagine a world governed by literal living gods, a place where monumental stone structures just absolutely pierce the sky, and where they had these incredibly complex rituals designed to, get this, conquer death itself. Today, we're decoding one of the most awe-inspiring stories in all of human history. We're talking about the rise, the golden age, and the dramatic collapse of the Empire of the Nile. 3,000 years. Just let that sink in for a second. To put that staggering timeline into perspective, Cleopatra actually lived closer in time to the invention of the iPhone than she did to the building of the Great Pyramid. It's wild, right? So, how did a civilization this resilient actually operate? How did it survive for so long? And what enduring mysteries did it leave behind for us to solve? Section 1. Birth of the Empire, the Unification of the Nile. Okay, so winding the clock way back to before 3100 BC, you've got these early, kind of fragmented villages clinging desperately to the banks of the Nile River. It was basically this ribbon of green cutting through an absolutely unforgiving desert. Divided into Upper and Lower Egypt, they really didn't have much immense power. But then, everything changed. King Narmer steps onto the stage and he forcibly, and politically, unites these two halves into a single cohesive empire. Without Narmer, the whole legend of ancient Egypt as we know it would never have even begun.
Section 2. Pharaohs and Great Pyramids, the Age of God-Kings and Impossible Engineering.
You see, a pharaoh wasn't just some political king sitting on a golden throne. They were revered as a living god on earth, literally. This sheer, absolute divine power meant that whatever they demanded was unquestionable. And that, of course, fueled the construction of massive royal palaces, these sweeping temple complexes, and honestly, the most monumental tombs the world had ever seen. Speaking of monumental, the Great Pyramid of Giza was just an absolute triumph of human will. First off, it required this crazy level of architectural mastery, aligning these massive complexes perfectly with the stars. Step 2 involved unfathomable human labor. We're talking tens of thousands of workers quarrying and moving over 2.3 million colossal stone blocks across the blistering desert heat. And finally, step 3, the precise construction. They assembled those blocks with such mind-blowing accuracy that you can barely slide a piece of paper between them today. It wasn't magic, guys. It was unparalleled human organization. Section 3. Daily life and the afterlife. Life on the Nile versus the underworld. Ancient Egypt was really a civilization of profound paradox. On one hand, daily life on the Nile was super vibrant. You had bustling markets, rich agriculture fed by the river's floods, these massive trade networks, and of course, the genius invention of papyrus scrolls and hieroglyphics. It was a lively, energetic society. But casting a massive shadow over all of this life was their deep, highly complex obsession with death and the afterlife. They dedicated immense resources to carving out vast tombs and crafting these incredibly ornate sarcophagi, all just to ensure a safe passage into eternity. And this obsession birthed the practice we all know them for, mummification. It was this rigorous, highly specialized three-step procedure. Step 1 began with deep spiritual and physical purification of the deceased. Next came step 2, which is pretty intense, the careful removal and preservation of vital internal organs into canopic jars. Interestingly, they left the heart in place because they believed it was the seat of the soul. Finally, step 3. The body was dried out and preserved using a specialized salt called natron before being meticulously wrapped in yards and yards of linen. To the Egyptians, an eternal afterlife was literally impossible if the physical body decayed. Section 4. Powerful rulers of Egypt. Legends of the throne. So, who actually wielded this ultimate godlike power? Well, 5 rulers really defined the empire. First up, Ramses II. The absolute military titan whose colossal statues still dominate the sands today. Then there's Hatshepsut, the visionary female pharaoh who forged incredibly lucrative global trade routes. We also have Akhenaten, the radical who violently upended centuries of religion just to worship a single sun god. Tutankhamun, the boy king whose untouched tomb became history's greatest archaeological treasure. And finally, Cleopatra, the brilliant political strategist and really the empire's final breath. Section 5. The Fall of Egypt. Invasions, Conquest, and Collapse. But, nothing lasts forever. An empire that stood for millennia eventually began to fracture. The first millennium BC was an era of total chaos. It was marked by changing borders, intense internal struggles, and successive waves of foreign invasions. The centralized power of those god kings we talked about was rapidly eroding. Then, in 332 BC, Alexander the Great swept through, dramatically pulling Egypt into the Greek sphere. Finally, the tragic end came in 30 BC. Following the death of Cleopatra, the mighty Egyptian empire was totally absorbed into the expanding Roman war machine. Just like that, the age of the pharaohs was over. Section 6. An everlasting legacy. Echoes of the Nile in the modern world. The empire may have fallen over 2,000 years ago, but its influence is literally everywhere today. Think about architecture. The sheer geometry of the Great Pyramids continues to inspire modern monumental structures globally. In math and medicine, their early anatomical studies, which were largely driven by their mummification practices, actually laid a really vital foundation for modern science. And when it comes to writing, through hieroglyphics and papyrus, they didn't just record their own history. The decoding of their writing actually paved the way for modern archaeology as a whole. So, as the quote goes, ancient Egypt remains one of the most fascinating civilizations in history. And it's so true. It is far more than just dusty tombs and faded ruins. It's fascinating because of its monumental scale, its vivid juxtaposition of life and death, and its undeniable, enduring footprint on our modern world. From the bold ambition of King Narmer to the final days of Cleopatra, it is a 3,000-year testament to exactly what humanity is capable of building. The empire of the Nile might have faded into the sands, but its echoes remain loud and clear. Now the question turns to you. What great civilization should we explore next? Drop your ideas in the comments below and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next historical explainer. Until next time, keep learning and keep exploring.